We ready, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good. We'll go ahead and call this working session of the East Peoria City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Here.
Hill?
Here.
Mingus?
Here.
Sutherland? Mayor Call?
Here.
All present except Commissioner Sutherland, Your Honor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, this evening, the working session of the City Council is to discuss the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. It's simply a planning discussion. No formal action will be taken by the council this evening. As we've had on the agenda, we've done in previous years. I'll turn this over to the finance director, and then he'll call upon the various department heads and we'll go through their operating budget. The game plan here is to have another working session in a couple weeks to go over the capital, and then we'll put everything together and bring it back before council at a later date. So with that, Mr. Finance Director Jeffrey Becker, you have the floor.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm going to start with the marina. So you have it in front of you. It's just 2 pages separate than the city budget. On the first page, income, you'll see most of the lines are flat except for fuel. Fuel is expected to be up. We had a better year last year than was anticipated as well. After dredging that marina, we've been able to get some larger boats in and get more fuel from people doing the loop and stuff and service those boats. So that's been a plus. Overall revenue is up. And then if you go to the next page, you'll see most of the line items are flat. I did want to highlight though, equipment purchases is just down to 10,000. Not looking to purchase anything major there this year. Next year, we're going to have to look at replacing one of the forklifts. There's 2 of them there. One of them we've done some work to a couple of years in a row now, and it's kind of getting tired. So we're going to look at doing that next year. And total expenses due to no equipment this year are down as well. The marina is estimated to make a profit of over $110,000, $120,000 this year. With that, we're going to start with Cord with water sewer. And in your packet, bear with me 1 second. It's going to be on page 30.
Everybody can hear me okay? All right, not a lot of changes this year. Salary and wages went up a little bit as expected, annual and typical increase. Bumped up a little bit for water treatment. The cost of chemicals has risen, so we've got to compensate for the rise of chemical cost. Down the sewer department, same thing, salaries a little bit, bumped up some. We increased a little bit of money on 5052, which is for maintenance, and 5092 for sewer maintenance. We've got some more anticipated maintenance work that's got to be done out in the system that we're going to be doing, and we're picking up a lot of that work in-house instead of contracting out. So those figures are increased to represent that type of work. Other than that, everything else has pretty well stayed the same or stayed consistent.
And I think, excuse me, let me turn this on. Just to be clear up front, as we prepare to go through all the departments, you'll see overall it's a relatively flat budget with regards to salaries, other than like longevity, things like that kicking in. It's you'll see a 3% increase is what's budgeted for this fiscal year. But other than that, anyone have any questions for Cord?
And also I'll note on that, I know it's on the council's packet, there was an increase there for reconnection fee, which I know coming in front of council probably next month, so we'll go into that deeper then.
Yeah, I think Scott said February 4th he'll have it ready. So our next regular council meeting next week. And is that something, Cord, you just want to touch on? Just to
Sure.
tell them where we're going with this.
We're implementing a reconnection fees. Hopefully will deter some of the non-pay shutoffs that we've been experiencing. We've got a pretty substantial number, and it's causing a lot of additional work. So hopefully by increasing that fee a little bit, we'll deter people from not paying their bill, and we'll get people on board with paying their bill in a timely manner.
Yeah, we have a list that's as long as my arm of frequent flyers that constantly abuse it. And so we looked into what other municipalities do, and this is kind of what we landed on. And we'll go more in depth next week, but that's why in your notes up here, Jeff put in red off to the right-hand side on your budget. He noted that there's a reconnection fee, and that's what's included in that line item, so.
How do they do that? Reconnect under a different name, or?
Just turn it
No,
back
they
on.
just, there's not much of a penalty for not paying your bill, so
Oh, I
they
gotcha.
won't pay the bill, and then we just go out there and just reinstitute service when they paid their bill.
Okay, all
You
right.
know, a lot of your other utility companies, phone bill, whatever, there's a little bit of a heftier penalty for not paying your bill on time.
So we're not talking about the person who has an extremely large bill, maybe then they move out, and then the owner of the property is stuck with for a water issue. Years ago, that was a problem. Some landlords wanted us to change our rules so it would follow the tenant instead of follow the property. But following the property is a way we make sure to ultimately get the money back.
Yeah,
Correct.
this does not address that issue.
Okay.
This is simply just trying to get people to pay their bill on time.
Gotcha, okay.
So this is just when you turn it off at the meter and you go back out and turn
When
it
you
back on.
turn it back on,
So
we're
there's
going
no
to start charging.
physical connection going on, it's just turning the water off and turning it back on?
Yes.
Correct.
And it's called a reconnection fee. So as it stands now, we just went through it this week. One day we're busy shutting everybody off. They come in and pay their bill, some of them at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever, online. They'll do it online, and then the next day we're back out there, turning it right back on.
Right.
But we've not charged anything to do that.
And it
So-
ties up our resources from
Yes.
doing other work,
Yeah.
while they're running around chasing people that hadn't paid their bill in a timely manner.
Yeah. You guys have any other questions for Cord?
Okay, to continue with Public Works, Rick isn't here. I'm going to touch on his items. On page 2, I take that.
Brett got the lucky dog pass tonight.
Right, I'm sorry, page 4. Vehicle maintenance, you'll see the 3% for salaries, and then maintenance of vehicles, he bumped up a little bit there. The rest of his items remain flat. And then on page 11 is solid waste. Again, you'll see 3% for salary, and the rest of his items have remained flat there as well. And then on page 16, again, he's got a 3% bump on the salary line. Contractual services are up $20,000 or $10,000 from 10 up to 20,000. And then his street sign budget, he bumped from 10 to 15,000. And then there's a major decrease on line 5163, and that was due to Springfield Road project last year. And that's all of the items that Rick has. Does anybody have any question on Rick's department? Nope.
Any questions?
No.
No?
Okay, next, if I can have Ty and Robert, we'll get them up here next. And Ty will be on page 3 at the bottom.
Sorry, we're used to going last at these things, so.
Robert requested to be moved up, so I obliged.
It's Robert's fault.
No big changes here other than contractual services, and that's because our comprehensive plan is starting to wind up. And so the remaining expenditure there is down quite a bit, but we typically use that line item for things like appraisals and surveys and that sort of thing. I did want to just take a brief moment. I don't want to take a lot of time here, but we had a lot of great things going on last year and moving forward. Our branding effort has wrapped up. In as much as our work with a consultant, now the fun begins. Now we're going to start introducing that brand out to the public. We've started doing that. We've got business cards in the queue. We've got some examples here within the room. We've got the new flag. We've got the backdrop that we're going to utilize for public events. Signage is one thing that we're starting to work on now, looking at gateway signage, directional signage, those sorts of items. Apparel for staff is going to be coming as well, too. So now that the heavy lift begins, but we've got a great branding committee that's comprised of some staff and some folks from out of the city, outside of the city offices to kind of give us some guidance and assistance. And More great things to come with that. We also did migrate GIS to the cloud, and this is something that improves our overall security. This was something that our IT consultant really wanted to see, is to get it out from city servers. Thank you to Commissioner for helping with that. Commissioner Hill kind of guided us through that process with our consultant. We implemented our new permitting online, and that was the beginning of June, so it's been going for 6 months. It was really a very good exercise for us to go through our processes, continue to refine them. It's something that it's a work in progress, but really was very beneficial for our customers, for our residents, because it's something that they can go in and access at any time, see what's going on with the status of their permit. They can apply at any time. They don't have to come into City Hall. Everything can be done remotely, and it's worked pretty well. You know, I think it's like I said, it's a work in progress, but something that forced us to look very closely at our processes.
Yeah.
Like there's kind of two highlights, and then I just wanted to hit upon, we've got some great development coming this year. The Hampton Inn is set to break ground this spring, hopefully by April or May, and that's going to be a really nice addition to the riverfront. Had some announcements recently with Best Buy and Boot Barn going over here across next to Target, and they're to get open. Best Buy is looking to get open by mid-June, and then the Boot Barn is coming later this year. Completion of the Bluetown project. Police station has broken ground. 1910 Springfield Road, the former senior living facility, is being converted to apartments. And then 2 of the 4 corners are primed for redevelopment this year. So you're going to see some activity there, first with demolishing some of the buildings that are on those sites and then redevelopment occurring. So there's a lot of great things that are going on, and we're not stopping with that. We've got other prospects looking down Center Street and continuing the redevelopment efforts here in the Levy District. So very exciting time with planning and development.
Yeah.
Ty, the 1910 Springfield Road, I did have a person reach out to me. Those apartments, are they targeting like an older community or or is it just for anyone?
It opened to the public, as I understand it. I don't know that I've gotten any sort of projected rent rates at this point. I think they're still probably several months out. I don't know, Robert, if you got to update the timeline.
I mean, it's going to be coming. I know they aren't even accepting applications yet. They're still-
Right.
Okay.
Right there.
Okay, I'm
I
sorry.
do know it's, he made it clear it's not low income.
Right.
If that's
Yeah.
what
No.
you're.
No.
Well, there's
I had
rumors at
someone
one
ask
time
their
about
parents
veterans.
Maybe moving in there.
Sure. Yeah, my understanding, the finishes that he showed us when we sat down with him and his other projects were more higher-end finishes.
Good.
Very well done.
It's just impressive that they were able to salvage that building. And I think
Yes.
what was discovered is the condition of it, that whoever did the preparation work, the foundation work for that building did a tremendous job.
Yeah,
The
had
slab
solid
there was in
bones.
great shape, so.
Yeah.
Very excited to see that, though. And, it sat there for so long, empty and.
Eyesore and
Yeah, we thought at some point the city was going to have to take on that burden of demolishing the property, and it was a big lift. So we're very pleased with their redevelopment efforts.
Yeah, it's coming along, looking good. You done?
And then Robert's on page 4.
Yep, 4 and 5. And I apologize, I'm kind of losing my voice, but, the budget stayed fairly flat. There was just a few things that we seen as far as like an increase in the contractual inspections. That was kind of offset by a 20% increase in the revenue. Electrical, obviously our largest would be electrical on the solar, residential solar programs that are going on. And I think we had a little typo on the printing. I think we might have missed 0. We're probably going to try to keep that right at that 1,500, Jeff. Or maybe that was actuals, why we did that. And that's a wrap. Besides that, just a small increase on the maintenance, building maintenance end of it, and vehicles, and then obviously the 3% increase on salaries. That's about it, fairly flat.
You guys all did a
Questions?
good job. Any questions?
Any questions?
For these guys? No? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then we'll have Corey do East Side and Hotel Motel next.
Which page?
22.
22, Jeff?
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening. So we'll start on page 22 with the east side with the revenues. Fairly flat for the most part, not a ton of increases. With our turf, we'd like to see that outside rental increase a little bit. Then we've added some larger tournaments for 2025 that we're excited for. So rentals up all the way around, but for the most part, going to stay flat. And then with those large tournaments too, you'll see a little bit of increase in that concession food and beverage line item too. Questions on the revenue side for east side? And that's indoor and outdoor both there. Okay, expenses side, so moving over to the rec building, not a ton of changes there. We have our 3% salary increase. Contractual services, that's just the increase from the cleaning service, and then things go up, internet, whatever the case may be, so contracts went up slightly. One big one that sticks out is the other operating expenses. Advertising signs, that's what we pay for those out of. So those outfield advertising signs that you see, we've added a lot of new vendors over the last year, so that's what we pay for those out of. So that's why you see that large increase there. Otherwise, the rec building, for the most part, stayed fairly flat. Questions? Then moving on to the fitness center, you see a decrease in the salaries there just because Mr. Nimmo retired. So we've got his replacement in the building, Max Murphy, so we have a little bit of a decrease there. Moving on to page 23, really again, it stayed fairly flat. So the cleaning contract again went up slightly. For buildings and building and maintenance, we'd like to add some paint this year, so that's why that went up slightly. And then you'll see other operating expenses that went up. So with Max being in the building and again trying to get more memberships for the fitness center, that'd be your dumbbells, paint, small pieces of equipment, and things like that. So we'd like to increase that a little bit to try to help with some membership. Questions on the indoor fitness center? And then moving to the outdoor, percentages look large, but really it stayed fairly flat. So part-time wages, we bumped that back up. We're kind of learning, even if you have all the turf fields, it still takes an army to do those weekend events. When you've got 60, 80, 100 teams up there, it still takes quite a few people to make that happen with trash removal, debris, crowd control, even helping with some concessions when they need to type of thing. So, but for the most part, that line, all those line items stayed flat or close to flat. Questions on any expenses for east side?
Just so you guys understand what he was saying there, we had dropped it without giving it full thought last year, so lesson learned.
Or without trying
So
anyway, so half the turf fields were done, and we were thinking that would, help us decrease our labor, but we're learning as we go, kind of. I think eventually it is going to make a drop, but for now, with these large events coming in, it takes an army to do it from 6 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. Still takes a good number of staff members, then minimum wage going up as well, so.
Yep.
Okay, so then we'll move to page 25 for hotel motel. You'll skip 24. Revenue side of things, and I can let Jeff speak to this too, but hotel motel taxes, they've continued to go up over the years, so we're posing a pretty big increase, but where the numbers sit now, we feel good about that 1.25 for the next fiscal year. And then Winter Wonderland receipts down slightly. We had a good uptick this year with the 40th year and all the marketing we did, but our guess is that it would be down slightly for the 41st year. And then otherwise, it stays fairly flat. Any questions on revenues for hotel motel? And then moving to the expense side of things, for the most part, things stay flat there. We're going to increase some special event labor for Red, White, and Boom and Festival of Lights Parade. Overtime has gone up slightly again on those Saturdays that we work special events, weekends, and things of that sort. With minimum wage going up, we increase that one slightly. For the most part, the expenses in there stayed fairly flat. I know some of the percentages look big, but questions on the expense side of thing for hotel motel?
No.
Okay, thanks, Corey.
Thanks, Corey.
Chief Zimmerman. Bobby, you'll start with ESDA, which is going to be on page 6. And then after that, fire will be on page 9.
Good evening. Like Jeff said, we'll start with ESDA. There was an increase in $10,000 in that line item. The sirens are more expensive than they used to be. We had 2 that are slated to be replaced in the next fiscal year, and it was my recommendation that we replace 1 this year and then 1 next year versus 2 in 1 year. Those 2 sirens, one's on South Pleasant Hill and the other one is at Paradise. The South Pleasant Hill siren, I'm waiting on a quote back. It'll get replaced this spring, and then in this budget, we'll replace the Paradise one with some more speakers. It only has 2 speakers, and it actually needs 8. So both those sirens will be relatively the same price. Any questions on ESDA? On the fire budget, as mentioned previously, pretty flat. The salary line item does show an increase greater than 3%, but we have 8 members hitting full base either late this fiscal year or next year, so that just allocates that contractual obligation. Able to lower the overtime. We've had the luxury of being able to hire people. I think we're going to continue to hire people, but we are short still, so that does allocate for being down members. That overtime is strictly for minimum manning purposes. The contractual service we dropped, I know TC3 hasn't set publicly, we're going to talk about those rates that we pay to the dispatch services, but with the port fees, which is our Starcom radios, we do think we're going to be able to save some money and diminish that budget line item by $25,000.
And just for the record, we'll know on Friday, Chief and I have a TC3 meeting where we approve the budget and the agency fees. So we're going to know exactly what that dollar amount is.
And then everything else is pretty flat. You'll see the percentage changes look bigger or smaller, reflective of monetary changes, but like where you see a negative 20%, it's $2,000. Those aren't huge line items. Any questions on any of those changes?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Next,
you,
we'll
sir.
have Chief Catton and Deputy Chief Billingsley. And the police budget is on page 7.
I'll turn it over to DC Billingsley.
Good evening. Again, like most others, mostly flat. The salaries are direct reflection, direct costs. We did have one very senior retirement, which brought that down quite significantly. The overtime, we are at full staff, so we're budgeting extra for the overtime, as well as the return of some core training. It's required training that we have started doing again. Animal control, that is a direct cost. It's a contractual cost with them. Clothing allowance, we're not expecting very many new hires this year, so that went down. Probably the biggest one on here is our squad maintenance. Our fleet is aging quite significantly. This is a projected cost, actual direct cost for what we're going to spend this year, and that's what we've budgeted for next year. Motor fuel, that's a actual cost that's gone citywide. The operating expense line, 18%. Like Chief Zimmerman said, that's only $1,000. It's just a small line. The capital line, that's obviously going to be the new building. And on page 8, we did add a second K9 unit, 60% there, but that's only $3,000.
And I'd like to point out, I don't know if you guys are aware, that we had a kind citizen that helped us out getting the second dog. So
Yep.
these are just regular costs moving forward.
Correct. There was a very significant donation that
Yeah.
helped us to get up and rolling with that.
Yeah.
These are just added fees for food and veterinary care and things of that nature.
Yep.
So, any questions on the expenses?
Oh,
Thank you, Chief.
quick and easy. Look at you guys. Wow, Chief, don't hurry up and get up. Look at you go. All right, everyone brace yourself. This one's going to be ugly. This is going to blow the budget up.
We saved the
guaranteed.
largest one for last.
Yeah.
So we got Morgan with the clerk's budget.
City clerk. Oh, my goodness.
What page?
There goes the
Page
budget.
2.
Page 2. So there's a 3% increase. The only changes are 3% increase in salary, and then a slight decrease in the travel and training expenses by $50. Everything else is flat, so you guys have any questions?
Man, Morgan, I tell you, I got a whole sheet. But, no, I'm just kidding. All right, appreciate it.
Okay, so now hang on, bear with me. I'm going to go through everything that didn't get covered by somebody else. Starting on page 2 at the top is governing body, which is where the commissioners, except for Commissioner Sutherland, get paid out of. And then everything was flat except for employee community relations. We bumped up just a little bit based on some prior history. Holiday party, stuff like that, cost went up. Next is legal fees. You can see that stayed flat. Below that is board and commissions. There's an increase there for training and testing. The Police and Fire Commission, we've been doing more hiring. And some
So
of those
just to
costs have
Jeff's
gone up
point
too.
real quick, Jeff, if you don't mind, just so everyone understands, and we appreciate the Fire and Police Commission, they've kept a flat budget, but man, we have put the stress on them the last couple of years as we're trying to, our goal is to get up to full staff. So they had not changed their budget in years, so we went ahead and changed it because we've kind of blown that out of the water on testing. But it's on page 2, boards and commissions.
Oh, yeah.
There should be a note off to the right-hand side, increased testing, so we just felt it was prudent to increase that, even though we're likely not going to need it this year as we get up to full staff, hopefully, knock on wood, in both departments.
And then if you look at the bottom of that sheet, you'll see on the note there for the second HR person, it falls under the city administrator's budget. There was an increase there for that, which is currently open to internal candidates. On page 3, additional money for a phone stipend for that person. The next section is accounts and finance. You'll see there's an increase there for salaries, insurance is up, and then development agreement, which is a rebate on one of our development agreements on sales tax. And then if you jump to page 5 at the bottom, IT, contractual services are up, and operating equipment. We're going to replace some more servers and switches and stuff this year that are becoming end of life. And then we're going to flip. Page 12 is IMRF. That remained flat. Page 13, fire pension fund. Fortunately, our actuarial report came back very well, and that contribution is going down slightly this year. Same thing on page 14. The police pension contribution is going down slightly. Page 15 is the bond interest fund. The new one you'll see there at the bottom of that is a 2024 principal and interest expense, and that's for the police station bonds. That's new this year. Page 17 is the audit. That stayed flat. Page 18, street lighting, remained flat. Page 19, social security. We dropped the property tax levy a little bit on that this year. Page 20, workers' compensation. Hopefully that's going to remain flat. We'll see how this year goes. Unemployment insurance on page 21 remained flat. Page 24 is the Marina TIF. The property tax went up just a little bit on that. If you remember, the city sold the other part of that building. Page 27, Camp Street TIF. Most of this is bond payments at the bottom with a little bit of reduction year over year and a little bit of increase in property taxes up top. Page 28 is West Washington TIF. Again, the property tax went up a little bit, and you'll see those reductions in bond payments down below. Page 29 is fees associated with New Riverfront TIF. And then we get to page 33 is motor fuel tax. You'll see that we're at $1 million, and that for revenue. And the revenue is over, that's the remaining RBI funds that we have left over in that fund. And then page 34, Riverboat Gaming. Expected revenues down a little bit. Reimbursement to Peoria for their half is down. And the remainder below is the turf at Eastside Center and our IT hardware. Does anybody have any questions on those items?
Jeff, do you know off the top of your head what the current percentage is in both the fire and police percentage for the pensions?
I don't have the exact numbers, but it's upper 60s. I can get it to you.
60s? Okay.
Yeah, we've made great headway.
Yeah, and I don't, just because I haven't asked in a couple of years, I don't know, Bobby, you might know this as well, any new attempts at legislation change, or is it looking like 90% is still going to stick?
It's still 90 by 2040. There's talk of doing 100 by 2050, but nothing's been passed yet.
I'll be honest with you, since you brought it up, I prefer not to see a change. I prefer East Peoria stay on course, because when you look at it, projected out, we'll hit the 100%. And then once you do, it levels out. And as long as you meet your obligations, I mean, you're never going to go back down that road unless councils down the road choose not to fund it properly. But the sooner we can get there, the better off you are in the long run.
I totally agree. In fact, I think we probably could be pretty sufficient with quite a bit less, probably around 75%. And I just think just that mandate is so difficult. Fortunately, we're in a position that we'll be able to survive that. We'll be able to get to that point. Many communities won't, or they'll go bankrupt trying. So that's why I was wondering if there would be a legislative change that might affect it.
They've talked about it every General Assembly for the last number, and it just...
So I just looked it up, Commissioner. Fire's at 65.6% and police is at 66.2%.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, considering not too many years back, we were in the 40s.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then, Jeff, do you want to touch on, we're not talking about revenues tonight, do you want to explain to them what we're waiting on statewide so they understand when we bring it back?
Yep. Bring the revenue back. So the state releases their numbers every month. So at the beginning of February, we'll get the next month numbers from what we get from sales tax and everything, and that gives us the opportunity to get another month's information before we project from where we're at this year and where we think we're going. Unfortunately, IML came out with some projections. Use tax is projected to be down significantly.
Like nearly half.
The what tax?
The use tax?
Use tax. I'm not sure what happened. January 1st changed. Something happened down in Springfield, just causing that. And then PPRT is down again as well, which we expected.
Yeah.
But we'll go over that in 2 weeks in more detail.
And that's, that's why, quite honestly, we're very conservative on our budgets. We have been for years, and it's by design. Jeff and I are on the same page. When the state comes out with their projections, they say one thing, but the last number of years, it's been way off in a couple of areas. The use tax, I don't understand. There was a little disclaimer in there that had something to do with some change in that law, the Level the Playing Field Act that some change went into effect January 1, but we couldn't find
Yeah,
why
they're
that would change the
projecting a
number.
47% reduction. Does.
So, anyway, the whole point, once we have the revenue numbers and we can better project, then we'll bring them back to you guys. But capital's going to be up next here in a couple weeks. We're still sorting through that. All the departments appreciate cooperation. You guys did a good job. I like the process that we use. I would like to think you guys feel the same way, but, you know, obviously nothing's final here. This is just proposed draft at this point, and we'll eventually put it all together and see where we're at. So, you guys have any comments, questions?
No.
Any public comment? I don't think there's any out there, so. All right, I would seek a motion to adjourn the working session.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Roll call?
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
Of all present voting, aye, Your Honor.
Thank you. We are adjourned until we meet again.